You never think danger will come from the house across the street until the night it does. It was past midnight when my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the driveway camera. At first, I thought it was just a stray cat or a late-night delivery, but when I opened the feed, my heart sank. A figure was standing in my yard, not moving, not wandering, just watching. I nudged my wife awake, whispering that someone was outside. She pulled the blanket closer, convinced I was overreacting. But then we both heard it. The metallic rattle of the side gate being unlatched. That wasn't an accident. Someone was trying to get in. This wasn't a random prowler. It was my neighbor, a woman who had made it her mission to enforce every ridiculous HOA rule like she was a one-woman police force. She'd left notes about trash bins, argued about paint colors, and once even called city code enforcement over my Christmas lights. But this was different. She wasn't waving papers or knocking at the door. She was sneaking through my yard in the dead of night. I grabbed the baseball bat I kept near the bed and crept toward the back window. My kids' rooms were just down the hall. Every creak of the floor reminded me what was at stake. The figure in the yard, our self-appointed HOA enforcer, was now trying the back door, pressing on the handle, testing it. My pulse hammered as I realized she wasn't just trespassing, she was trying to get inside. I whispered for my wife to call 911, but my hands were already shaking. I didn't know what this woman wanted, but she was on my property, at my door, and my family was asleep inside. Then it happened. She spotted the security light. For a split second, her face was illuminated, cold, determined. Not the face of a neighbor filing a complaint. It was the face of someone crossing a line you can never uncross. The phone rang in my wife's hand as she gave our address to the dispatcher. But I knew the police would take time, and time was something we didn't have. I stood there frozen, every instinct torn between protecting my family and avoiding the nightmare of what would follow if I made the wrong move. This was the night a neighbor turned into an intruder, and it was only the beginning. The dispatcher's voice echoed through the phone as my wife tried to stay calm, but every second felt like an eternity. I could see the intruder's shadow moving along the sliding glass door, her hand cupped against the glass as if searching for a way in. My children's bedrooms were just a few steps away. The thought of her getting inside ignited something primal in me. This wasn't about HOA drama anymore. This was survival. I slid the bat tighter into my grip and moved closer to the back door. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure she could hear it. Then suddenly she started tugging at the handle again. Harder this time, like she expected it to give way. The security light flickered, as if it were struggling to keep up with the chaos, casting long, jerky shadows across the yard. "Stay away from the door!" I shouted, my voice louder than I intended. My wife gasped behind me, clutching the phone tighter to her ear. For a moment, silence. She froze outside, head tilted, staring straight through the glass as though daring me to stop her. Then she smiled. That chilling grin made my stomach knot. It wasn't nervousness or embarrassment. It was confidence. Like she had all the power, standing in my yard, pushing my limits. The dispatcher was asking questions. "Is she armed? Do you feel threatened?" My wife struggled to answer, her voice shaking. But me, I didn't need to think twice. Yes, I felt threatened. More than threatened. Cornered. She stepped back from the glass and reached into her coat pocket. My breath caught. I didn't know what she had. Pepper spray, a knife, maybe something worse. But I wasn't about to wait and find out. I raised the bat, ready to swing if she smashed her way in. Then out of nowhere she shouted, "You think you own this place? You'll regret this!" Her voice sliced through the quiet night, loud enough to wake the neighbors. I could hear movement inside my son's room. He was awake now, frightened. My daughter whimpered from down the hall. The intruder wasn't just threatening me anymore. She was threatening my entire family. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. The police weren't going to make it in time. If she got through that door, it would be me standing between her and the people I loved most. And hesitation was no longer an option. The seconds dragged like hours as she hovered outside the glass. Her hand remained buried in her pocket, and every muscle in my body tightened in anticipation. My kids were awake now, whispering and crying softly from their rooms. My wife's voice cracked as she pleaded with the dispatcher. "Please hurry. She's trying to break in." And then it happened. The sharp clang of metal against glass rang out as she struck the sliding door with something heavy. The sound jolted through the house like a gunshot. My children screamed. My pulse raced. She was escalating, and if the glass shattered, there'd be nothing left between her and us. I yanked open the blinds, hoping the sudden movement would make her stop. Instead, she leaned closer, pressing her face against the window. "Open up!" she barked, her eyes wide, wild. "You don't belong here! You're ruining everything!" Her words cut through me. This wasn't about HOA rules anymore. It was obsession, maybe madness. She truly believed she had the right to invade my home. I shouted again, louder, firmer. "This is my property! Leave now!" My voice shook, but it carried every ounce of authority I could muster. For a brief moment she hesitated. Her hand twitched at her side, and I thought, maybe she'll back down. Maybe this nightmare ends here. But instead, she pulled something from her coat. My stomach dropped. In the dim light, I couldn't see clearly, but it glinted as she raised it. A weapon? A tool? I didn't have the luxury to analyze. All I knew was that she had crossed the line from nuisance to outright threat. I raised the bat higher, ready to swing the moment she forced her way inside. Behind me, my wife cried out, "The police are on their way!" But it didn't matter. This woman wasn't leaving. She lifted the object above her head and slammed it against the glass again. The pane shuddered, spiderweb cracks spreading across the surface. My children screamed louder, their tiny voices piercing the air. That was the breaking point. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't thinking about HOA meetings or neighborly disputes anymore. I was thinking about my children's faces, the fear in their cries, the way my wife's hands trembled. I had to act, now. I sprinted to the safe I kept hidden in the closet, my fingers fumbling with the code as the sounds of her assault echoed through the house. The door clicked open. Cold steel met my hand. The night had turned into a battlefield, and I was done waiting. The moment my hand gripped the pistol, the weight of it pressed reality onto my shoulders. I didn't want this. I never imagined I'd be standing in my own living room, forced to make a decision like this. But the sound of cracking, glass, and my children's terrified cries erased any trace of hesitation. I rushed back toward the sliding door. The woman was halfway through another swing, the metal tool in her hands raised high. The glass was fracturing more with every strike, tiny shards raining down the carpet. She was seconds from forcing her way inside. "Stop!" I shouted, aiming the gun directly at her. "This is your last warning." She froze for a moment, staring at the weapon, her expression twisting into something I'll never forget. Not fear, not regret, but defiance, like she believed she was untouchable, even here, in the middle of the night, on someone else's property. And then she lunged. The glass gave way with a deafening crash as she pushed forward. Instinct took over. My fingers squeezed the trigger before I could even think. The explosion of sound rattled the walls, echoing through the house like thunder. My wife screamed, covering her ears. My kids wailed down the hall. The intruder collapsed across the threshold, the tool clattering from her hand. For a moment, the world went silent. Just me, the ringing in my ears, and the horrifying stillness of the figure on my floor. Blue and red lights flashed across the front windows moments later. The police had arrived, but too late to stop what had already happened. Officers stormed in, shouting commands, weapons drawn, only to find me standing there, gun trembling in my hands. My wife crying, my kids huddled in fear. I lowered the weapon and raised my hands, every ounce of adrenaline draining at once. The officers' eyes darted from me to the shattered glass, to the body sprawled inside my home. And though the night had ended in violence, the truth was undeniable. I had acted to protect my family. The investigation that followed would test us, tearing through every detail, every second of that night. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about HOA drama or neighborhood politics anymore. It was about survival. And when a neighbor crosses the line from nuisance to intruder, from trespasser to threat, you do whatever it takes to protect the people you love. That's what I did. That's what I'll always live with. If this story shocked you as much as it did me, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable HOA and Karen stories. Your support helps me bring you even crazier real-life dramas every week.